We are here with Destiny Brown, a 2021 Hall of Famer. Uh, Destiny was a multiple all-conference award winner in basketball and volleyball, not just on the athletic court, but also academically. Ranks in the top 10 in scoring in basketball, holds several records, or still on several top 10 lists in volleyball. Destiny, congratulations on being selected to the Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to be nominated.
First, let's talk a little bit about, because everybody likes to know how somebody ends up where they are. You come from Stillwater, Oklahoma, Stillwater High School, and you were highly recruited out of there. Your basketball prowess was recognized early. Talk a little bit about your journey to here. And, you didn't come here straight out of high school, but you found your way here. Can you give us kind of the 10,000-foot view of that journey?
Yeah, so initially I went to UT San Antonio. I went down there with one of my high school teammates. I stayed the first year. Second semester, a lot of things didn't go the way I wanted them to, so I decided to come back closer to home. And so I left San Antonio. I stayed for one season. I left San Antonio, was trying to debate between here and UCO, and ultimately I was led to Southeastern. The only person I really knew here was my boyfriend, Craig, now husband. And so that kind of guided me to come to Southeastern, ultimately.
Well, and it worked out well for you. You came here and you sat out a year in transition, and then you started under head coach Darren Grover back in, I believe your first season was 2007.
Yeah.
And talk about, and then I'm going to ask Darren to jump in a little bit as well. Talk about coming into the program and getting comfortable, not just with basketball because we have Coach Grover with us, but your time at Southeastern actually started with volleyball that season.
All right, so I had to sit out that first year. I was also hurt at the same time, so it kind of worked out. Volleyball, obviously, I sat, just sit at practices. I was like a ball girl. Moved on to, because I couldn't do anything really. I went on to basketball. At this point, I don't know anybody. I'm kind of discouraged. I can't play, so I'm just sitting on the sidelines. So that first year was just kind of rough. I was just kind of a little discouraged, and I think it's me not being able to play. I was just sitting, and I've never been hurt ever or had to just sit and not compete. So that bothered me more than anything. So that adjustment that year was pretty rough because I didn't know anybody. I couldn't play. I was just kind of out of it. And then springtime rolls around, and I can finally start practicing. My knee feels better. So then I start making some friends, start being a little bit more myself, and start working hard for the next season where I can compete.
Now, Darren, talk a little bit about, from the other side, you were aware of her in high school and how good she was at Stillwater, and now here she is coming into your program with a little bit of seasoning. And talk about your initial impressions of Destiny as she was stepping out onto the floor.
Well, every college coach across the state knew who Destiny Brown was whenever her being recruited out of Stillwater. So we all knew who she was. Thank goodness that Craig Andrus came to school here at Southeastern, and Craig was at NEO and I was at NEO at the same time, and then Craig came up to, I had Craig in class, and he came up to me and I didn't know who he was dating. Said, "Hey, my girlfriend is wanting to transfer." Because I didn't have any clue who he was talking about. Well, who's your girlfriend? Destiny Brown. Oh, okay, yeah. So thank goodness for Craig Andrus and their relationship. But she came in, and we all knew how good she was at coming out of high school and then playing at the Division I level. But then once she finally got healthy and was able to go ahead and get on the floor for us, it was kind of confirmed just how good she was. Biggest thing about Destiny was she was just such a presence in and around the basket. She just, it didn't matter how good a pass somebody threw to her, Destiny was going to come up with it. And the same thing was true with, she just knew what to do with the ball. She just was such a presence on the floor. And so, when she started getting to play with us, I was happy once we knew she was going to go ahead and going to stay here. But then once she got to play, it was an immediate impact.
Now, Destiny, you talked a little bit about fighting through the injury and the not being able to play for a season. Now that, let's kind of get in the Wayback Machine a little bit and see if you can talk about what it was like to actually get out and start competing. Obviously in volleyball first in that season and then on into basketball, now that you were back to 100%.
I was really actually just relieved to I've played sport since I think my freshman year, volleyball, basketball year round, school ball. It was volleyball, basketball, then off season, travel, basketball, volleyball, into volleyball, preseason, and just around the circle. So that's what I was used to. So I was finally relieved to get back into it. Start making some friends, start having an impact right away. Just, being on the court, working hard, and then rolling into basketball, that was my main focus in general. I knew I was going to play basketball, and I've always was going to play basketball. So just getting comfortable, learning Coach Grover's system, learning the girls, because I've never been in any kind of offense like Coach Grover's, which I end up really liking it because you have a lot of freedom. So just getting adjusted there was one of the big things. But after that, the more I played, the more comfortable I got with everybody in the system and my teammates. And I was just relieved, really.
Now, when you talk to other athletes in general, the thing you always hear about is the jump from high school to college is bigger than most people think. You did it in 2 sports at the same time. Talk about competing in 2 sports and, kind of getting the double of having to adjust to faster games. People run faster, jump higher. It's just a different game at the college level.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, I think, is the speed. Everything was different. So, basketball, obviously, there's a shot clock at this point. And then girls, I kind of was always a center / maybe 4. So having to guard some of the bigger girls that are bigger than high school that I played, bigger, stronger. And then sometimes getting those guards that were a lot faster than me having to guard, that was the biggest transition for me. Just knowing what to do with the ball, can't pass it as slow or lazy like you did in high school. And then volleyball, obviously girls are bigger, you can jump higher, swing harder. So just making that adjustment to being able to make my adjustments as well. Part of that is just paying attention to detail, practicing hard, listening to your coaches. And then I've always been a hard worker. So I always have that mentality of wanting to be the best. So off season and summertime, I was out working. You probably see me running around the track. It's super hot outside, but just working, trying to become better for my team and myself. And that's really what helped me, is just working hard, paying attention. And like I said, I think I was just born to compete. So it just kind of came natural, but having to work a little bit harder.
Now, Darren, you saw the other side of that as somebody who, you didn't get her through the off season to begin the year, and she would come in usually very close to the beginning of the actual competitive season. From the other side of it, how well do you think, especially that first season, that she adapted to the different level of play?
Oh, she adapted really quick. There was immediately when she came from volleyball to basketball, even though she was a little out of basketball shape, she was ready to go. There wasn't this big lag time. Yes, I'd have to look back at stats, but I would make the assumption that she probably started a couple of games in after she came from volleyball to basketball immediately, just because of how natural she is. And she was used to making that transition from high school. But it is a bigger transition whenever you get to college and you're going through all that grind of the volleyball season, getting here in August and going through that grind and all the way through volleyball season and doing those 20 hours a week there, and then turning right around and having to do that through basketball. And people don't really realize how much of a grind basketball is. It's the longest season, I think, of any collegiate sport. You're talking about a sport that spans for, almost 5 months. And then she would go right on into volleyball, back for off-season volleyball. So that's a difficult thing to do, to number one, be able to play 2 sports at the college level, but to excel at a Hall of Fame level is another thing entirely. And so it's an impressive thing. And I know Destiny, through her, as she went through her career here, especially toward the end, her body just was probably rejecting all of that work, that constant work. And so I know it was really difficult for her. Now, she might have, back then, we did a lot of off-season conditioning, preseason conditioning. She might have been glad that she didn't have to go through some of that. I don't know. You'd have to ask her about that.
I actually got a taste of it my first year at San Antonio, where I was just doing basketball, and it was terrible. And Christmas break, when we went home, like, I barely ate. Like, I was so terrified of the Christmas conditioning. Like, I barely ate anything. It was quite different.
Well, Coach Grover hinted a little bit at as your career went on and you maintained playing at such a high level in both sports, it did start to take its toll on you. I mean, it was physically demanding. And, just how did you personally approach, especially going through your senior year of both sports?
It was a lot of time, actually. So, I mean, the knee is really my knees. I've never, really torn anything. It's just the wear and tear. So, before games, I'd have to usually come in early, kind of warm up first, and I'd have to do the hot whirlpool, and I'd get on the bike and warm my legs up, and then I'd go do our dynamic stretching, and then I'd come back and then get my knee taped. So it kind of took a lot of time preparing for the game, and then afterwards, obviously the ice and being sore after, but I was just kind of used to it at that point. It just, kind of hurt, but take a little time longer to warm up, but I was always ready to compete.
Coach, you watched her through those senior years, especially through the last part of basketball her senior year. How did you see her approach to, fighting through what were probably becoming pretty, sometimes painful physical reminders of just the grind that she'd been on?
Oh, she had gotten Destiny. You never had to worry about Destiny. She was going to come to practice and work every day. And so I never, sorry, my light just timed out here.
There we go.
Destiny would come to work every single day and was consistent. So, but I knew she was hurting. Unfortunately, she'll probably end up having to have a couple of knee replacements before it's all done. But and anytime that a player fights through that kind of pain and gives everything that they have all the way through the season, it's just an impressive thing to watch. But you knew that Destiny was going to be consistent through every game and every practice. And what was great about Destiny was you didn't have to worry about the classroom work either. I mean, she was low maintenance. In fact, in preparation for this, I texted a couple of her teammates that she played with, trying to get some dirt on her, and I couldn't get any kind of dirt to make fun of her about anything. They kind of just say, well, there's not much to tell as far as things to make fun of her with. So talk about a low maintenance, easy player to coach, and just her general operation and how she went about doing business was easy for me.
Well, you segued a little bit there to what I wanted to bring up next. Is there something, a story or just something to say that kind of sums up what, how she interacted with your program, what she meant to it at the time?
Her stats speak for themselves, and the team's success while she was here speaks for itself as far as that goes. But I tried to think and like I said, reached out. I couldn't find anything. I couldn't, there wasn't anything to really pin her down. So, but I would just say her consistent work ethic in 2 sports and just really her presence on the floor, everything from scoring to rebounding to being just a versatile player is just an impressive thing. And I'm a big stat person, analytics person. I looked back this morning just at her stats, and then I even go so far as to figure up a player efficiency rating for every player that has ever come through here. And even all the way back down into the days, as long as they've kept stats here. And Destiny, she doesn't know this, but she ranks in the top 6 in 2 different years as far as player efficiency rating. And so it's just an impressive thing and that's why she's a Hall of Famer. It's an impressive thing that she was that good offensively, defensively, all the way around, and also had to do that playing 2 sports.
All right, Destiny, move over to you then. Are there any stories that you feel like you could get off your chest now that maybe you wouldn't have told when you were a player? Maybe there's something that, they didn't know about that you have a little dirt. Is there anything you'd talk about that kind of epitomizes your time, either in volleyball or basketball, while you were here?
Nothing really that stands out. Kind of like you mentioned, there's not nothing that stood out. I mean, I was low maintenance. I'm a pretty quiet person. I kind of keep to myself unless I'm like in a group that I'm really comfortable with. But so there was not a whole lot. I mean, I'm sure there's funny stories that we can mention here and there, but there's nothing that would stand out. I got along with most of my teammates. I'm sorry. I usually got along with most of my teammates. I tried to be a good teammate. And the one thing that I know I can say is that I worked hard. In volleyball and basketball, in practice, like sometimes I think I was a little too competitive in practice sometimes, but there's nothing that really stands out. I enjoyed playing, I enjoyed competing, whether it be practice and games, and I just had a good time. Made some good friends here, had a good experience here.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to lead into how I want to wrap this up. Destiny, I want to give you the opportunity to say your thank yous to the people who maybe helped you get to this point, and kind of give you the opportunity to give you the floor, so to speak, and let you kind of talk to the people about who you'd like to show appreciation to.
In general, the whole Southeastern family, athletic department, and all the teachers as well, coaching, athletic staff, just everybody in general was really helpful, especially when I first came here, didn't know anybody. They're always helpful, kind, polite. The athletic training staff spent a lot of time with me. So yeah, I thank them a whole lot. They pieced me together through that last year. Our coaches, obviously, they worked with me really well, playing both sports. They were patient with me. And kept me in a good attitude, a good space, competing. Didn't really have any issues with my coaches, so that was a good thing. Both volleyball and basketball. My teammates, I've had some really good teammates that kind of help encourage me because, I'm kind of flat sometimes. So I had some teammates that were able to get some excitement out of me and keep pushing me. And just, like I said, the entire athletic department has been really helpful, especially with playing both sports. Making that transition really easy. Sammy and Coach Grover, they did a really good job with me, especially on the bench. Just kind of keeping my head in the game, and I really appreciate them a lot.
Well, Destiny, that's all I had. I just want to say again, congratulations on your selection to the Hall of Fame. Well deserved.